Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the April Fool's 4-1 meeting of the Conservation Commission, April Fool's Day, but we are all business tonight because we have a full house. First time, long time, so wonderful. Before we start and call the meeting to order, I'll ask early for everybody to please silence their cell phones, both on the board and in the audience this evening, to ensure that we don't disrupt the next part, which is standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. So once silenced, I'll ask all rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, in case of emergency this evening, please do not use the elevator. We have an emergency exit up here to the front, the stairs in the back. If you'd like help from a member of the commission, anybody here can help support you out the building. I'll start this evening with introductions of the board to my left.
Good evening, Eileen Chabot.
Marty Ives.
Bob Spurl.
Rick Bazanga.
Grace Reisdorf.
Paul Dion, good evening.
Richard Metz. Bob Boonstra, good evening.
Good evening, Charlie Foote, Derry Town Council Liaison.
And I'm James Deggan, the chair. So based on our last meeting, you might see some new faces up here, but no strangers, right? Mr. Foote, welcome back as a liaison, replacing Erin Spencer. We thank Erin for her time here supporting the DCC. We have some new members with us this evening. Well, one new member in Mr. Metz, but no stranger out there to supporting public service. And we have wonderful Margie Ives back in attendance this evening. It's always a pleasure to see you, Margie, so thanks for coming out this evening.
The best is back.
The best is back, darn right. Darn right. So the first official order of business is to approve the meeting minutes from March 4th, 2024. I passed out a draft copy of that.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of March 4th as presented.
We have a motion on the table from Paul Dion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Rick Bazanga seconds. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention.
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 Okay, we've got, for the record, Margaret Ives abstains, Bob Spurl abstains, Grace abstains, Rick Metz abstains. Still passes. Motion carries. Fantastic. All right, in terms of correspondence, we did have a couple of pieces that came in since our last meeting. The first notice is a documented violation. This is for 57.5 Frost Road, Tax Map 2, Lot 149. Eileen Bilodeau had gone out to do an inspection. Detailed within the report out from DES is some deficiencies and instructions for the landowner to immediately install erosion control, stop all earth-moving activities, and there's some additional dates on here in terms of engineering work that needs to be done and processed by the state. So I'll share that with the commission. Next notice we have from DES is a forest statutory permit by notification. This is for Tax Map 2, Lot 82 and 82-1, owner South Range Realty Trust, care of Arthur Karras, trustee. And this is that a notice that the SPN is administratively complete and must be printed and posted on site while work is being complete. So I'll pass that forward as well. We also received a standard dredge and fill wetlands permit application. This is created by Moulton Engineering for 136 North Shore Road, map 19, lot 005 for a dock project. This is currently in review with DES, but has yet to be approved. So I'll leave that there. We received in the mail downstairs, and I can share with everybody, the standard dredge and fill permit for Denali Phase 4 from Tim Peliquin at Promised Land. So Eileen, I want to make sure you get your eyes on this permit as well as a full plan set downstairs for review. So that was submitted by Tim's group.
What's that address, James?
Excuse me. That is, they have it marked on here as 19 Forest Street, Derry, New Hampshire. There's various lots on this phase. Map 11, lot 57 and 57-17. 11, Lot 58, and Lot 58-8 through 58-12, map 14, lots 13 and Lot 5. And I can pass this to you if you want to document those specifically. Okay, that's what we have for correspondence. I'm going to audible off the agenda as we loaded some photos into the system, and we're going to pull those up. So instead of the officer's discussion for 2024, wanted to touch on some property changes. So in the past, we've talked about Cole Marsh, had quite a high water level for a period of time. The town and myself were in discussions to kind of get on site and help with some of the beaver activity that was happening out there. And ultimately, before we could get out there, the dam itself had kind of had an opening off to the side. So you can see here the water level, and Grace, you're familiar with this property, was very high up on these posts. This was a former bridge that was out on the parcel. You can see some of the trees down and around that property. You want to go to the next photo, Owen? So down on the entrance closer to the Valley Road side, where we've had some beaver deceiver work and some other adjustments over time going back, and I brought some files from the town that I was going through looking at some of the work that was out there. We've done a lot of work to help maintain and control, and ultimately the water got too high. This is where it opened up and came down. Owen, you want to go to the next one? You can see the effects here. This is a little bit further down the trail heading away from Valley Road as you loop around the backside of the woodlot. It's hard to tell from this photo, but the water level really was up to that larger tree you see to the left, and it had a pretty quick drain out once that dam did break. It was believed to have broken on one of the heavier windstorm days that we had recently, because I want to say, I forget the date that we took these photographs, but it was within the last 2 weeks that these photos were taken.
So
But
the dam is gone? It's just,
well, it had an opening that kind of came through and created a drift. Owen, do you have the last photo there? Yep, there it is. So where that inlet was, which is about maybe 6 feet across, kind of came through and ripped open, and we had a massive water event go through there. Nature finds a way, right? Got a little
Right.
too high and opened up. It has happened in the past. We had at the Low property off Hubbard Hill a very similar situation a couple years ago, where after a lot of rain, a heavy rainy winter, the dam itself just couldn't hold and washed out on the Low property. Very similar here. So we started conversations with the state, kind of seeking some additional resources to get it under control. We'll report out, obviously, that the dam itself is now broken and the water levels come down. But we have some challenges out there. That first bridge that I showed in the image is really in disrepair, and it's really unsafe. So I'm going to ask the public openly here tonight to stay off that portion of the property until that bridge can be formally repaired and taken care of. So that's why we made some adjustments tonight to make sure that the public is aware of that. There's also a floating bridge in close proximity to this one that's inside the wooded area to access this bridge if you're coming from the Dameron roadside in and around the marsh. We've had some challenges with that bridge. It's also unsafe. It's been under some tree cover for some time. It's kind of inverted into itself, and Alan Cody had gone out and taken a look at it, and we're, one, in need of repair on the bridge itself to make it safer, and two, need to move the bridge. It's been discovered that it's in an incorrect area, and it needs to be adjusted. So we've got to work, one, as a commission to kind of plan how we're going to attack and leverage that bridge. But for the time being, we're going to openly ask the public to stay off this area of the parcel. If you're going to come in from Valley Road, head out opposite to get towards the wider rail track that takes you to Dameron, and stay off the backside of this loop until we can properly address both moving the other bridge and making it safer, as well as making sure this bridge is safer as well. So in terms of the commissioners, I think Bob and Grace, we were out there together, and the water level was quite high a few years ago.
Yeah.
In this location. And so you can imagine seeing the difference now, what's happened out there. We do have somebody here from the public. Would you like to make any comment in regards to anything different than this, if you'd like to? I mean, we don't normally have open forum, but I appreciate that you came out tonight, so.
Hello. I own 37 Kristen Drive. The floating bridge.
You do have to state your name.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
My name is Françoise Ulrich, F-A-R-N-C-O-I-S-E, Ulrich, U-L-L-R-I-C-H. My husband and I own 37 Kristen Drive. It was discovered recently that our property extends beyond. We thought that it stopped at the trail. We had surveyors done. They came out, and we actually own the bridge and the beaver dam. The bridge is in disrepair. It's dangerous. My kids and I have slipped, especially. It's covered in algae of sorts. That is one issue. The second one is that in the past 2 years, when we bought the house in 2019, we were in a drought season, and it was already considered wetlands. Last year was extremely wet, and this year we've had trees uprooted and fallen down. If anybody's willing to come out, about 90% of our backyard is dangerous, unusable. There's trees that are 20, 30 years old uprooted because of the water level. We'd love to have the commission take a look. If it's
What was your first name again?
Françoise. Sorry, I'm French-Canadian.
That's okay.
F-R-A-N-C-O-I-S-E.
Thank you.
Françoise, thank you. If anybody's willing to take a look, I'm not sure what's easiest for the city as far as maybe moving the lot line rather than moving the bridge. We're open people. We didn't come in an adversarial fashion.
Oh, of course.
We'd just like for everybody else to sleep soundly. I'd hate for somebody to get injured on my property and then be, responsible for that. If the commission is willing to come out and take a look.
Yep.
That'd be
So
fantastic.
the town did send e-communication prior to tonight's meeting to kind of discuss the bridge, which is why we've made an effort to get on site and take a look. So we shared some contact, and we'll make a plan, call, and set up a time if somebody can come out and take 2 people to take a look at it.
There's about, excuse me, the dam that you were showing is the dam that the town made. Right next to the floating bridge is a beaver dam that the Beavers has done, and it extends, it raises the water table by about 2 feet above from the pond level, and that's the backwash that we're getting on our property. There's the beaver dam, and there's the actual artificial man-made
Backside,
dam.
yeah.
Thank you.
We'll take a look.
Francois, before you step away, when you had the lot surveys, did they put stakes in the ground? So they didn't?
And I sent an email to Ms. Spencer, Erin Spencer, the lady who was the commission before Mr. Foote. I sent an email about a month ago. We were considering an ADU, and we had the property surveyed for that. That's when we realized that the lots were blind. When I sent the email to Mrs. Spencer, she said she'd forward to the town administrator, and within 48 hours, we had surveyors from the town knock on our doors, asked if it was possible for them to come out. They did, went out, and we haven't heard anything from the town since.
But they didn't put pins in the ground and?
Nobody
nothing?
put any kind of pins on the
Nothing like
ground.
that?
The surveyors from the city came, said thank you, and left. It's been a month. I'm assuming that if our surveys was wrong, if what we had discovered was wrong, and the city actually owned that portion of the lot, they would have come back with that information.
And your surveyor also didn't put anything in the ground?
It was a preliminary survey for us. They're on a 6 to 8 week timeline.
Gotcha.
So what they did was draft up the map on the GIS and a map from the original, the Rockingham County map that we have on our deed. And it was an overlay, a digital overlay. I have a copy of it if you'd like.
No, I'm just saying,
Got a bunch of
when we're
copies.
going out there, we're just,
We'll catch up. We'll schedule something with you first thing in
Gotcha.
the morning, just
But
to make
the
sure.
town surveyors did come in person.
Okay.
Went back there when you haven't heard anything since.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good.
Mr. Chair. So Council Spencer did forward me that email chain, so I was going to address it tonight, so I'm glad that the chairman brought it up this evening, so the town is aware of it and they're working diligently on it, so.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Apologies about the lapse in communication. Certainly, it's better to know than to not know, right? So we'll follow up accordingly. Okay, we are going to move back to the order of business on the table, which would be the officer discussion for 2024 session, which we're already knee-deep in. But typically, we don't do it until after appointments are made, which we are now at a board. We still have some alternate positions open, which is fantastic. We do need to sit a chair. We've always had a vice chair, which has been good to have. A treasurer, which is mostly, processing the bills up through Sheila's office, which we've done a little bit less of in the last couple of years, as well as a secretary. The secretary would be more impactful because although we have an RFP out for an actual secretary for the board, prior to our meeting tonight, we talked to the town clerk. That has been passed upline, up to Dave for approval, so we should be getting something moving in that arena shortly. We have a couple of folks earmarked for offers internally at the town first, and then it'll be a conversation if they don't accept it from there. So we should have a secretary coming. But in terms of the board placements, I know myself, I'm in my final year, the last year of my remaining term. I had been a little bit of assumptive that I was going to adjust my schedule and kind of step away this year, and have opted to kind of hold pace and stay on at least fully throughout the entire year. We have a couple of things ongoing that we're working through, including an acquisition that we've been working on for a long time. And I've had a couple of conversations with multiple folks, including the sellers, that we want to see that through and not really disrupt that process. So tried to adjust my schedule as best as possible in hopes that we would make it work. So I want to give confidence to the board that if we make nominations to sit, if there's an opportunity for chairmanship to be granted my way, I would consider it as well as others. So I just want to let everybody know that's where I'm sitting today. But I'd like to open up the floor for suggestions for those 4 positions. If anybody would like to make a nomination or start.
I'll make a nomination to nominate you as chair for the following year.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion on the table for myself to remain as chair for my final year here. Rick seconds that. We have those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, well,
Thank
we're
you.
putting in the last 365 hard, so let's keep it going. But in all seriousness, we do have a lot of good stuff going on, and so what I'd ask is we open up the floor and we think about vice chair, and we think about that next year, once I take a step back, and probably keep an at-large position, but not fully committed, that the vice chair really works to kind of step in this year and carry a little bit more of the load than in years past. So do we have any nominations for vice chair?
Nominate Bob. Or Rick, I'm sorry.
I'll second that.
All right, so Grace nominates Rick Bazanga, who's been a
Bazanga.
fantastic steward on the commission for many years, and we have a second from Paul Dion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? I should probably ask Rick, do you want, okay, he
I'll
accepts.
stay on.
For the position of treasurer, do we have a nomination, or?
Do you want to continue it? No?
I've never been treasurer, and I just soon, you would regret it, put it that way.
Who's treasurer now?
I think
Wanna
by
stay
now,
on, Eileen?
I can do it. I've done it before.
I'll nominate Eileen.
Great, okay.
okay.
I'll second.
Second.
Paul Dion nominates Eileen.
She
Grace
seconds, yeah, Grace.
seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And nomination for secretary.
We should probably consider keeping that open if we're going
There's
to
only
get...
2 statutory required positions for conservation. It's chair and secretary.
Yeah, but I think we have a secretary coming from the...
But that's a statutory requirement.
With the exception of non-public.
Non-public.
For non-public, yeah.
If it's just non-public, I'd do it.
Okay. I'll nominate Paul as secretary.
Second.
All right.
Second.
You have a clarifying question?
Is Paul an alternate or a member?
Oh,
A full member.
Paul is a full member as of, he just got sworn in as a full member.
So who are our alternates now?
So,
Rick
right,
and Margie right now.
Yes.
Ricky's an alternate?
yep,
Margie's an alternate?
yes. And town clerk advised me that after tonight's meeting, once he goes in tomorrow, the website will be updated with the appropriate roster for the commission.
Okay. And Bob's a
Full-time,
full member?
yep.
Okay,
Grace is full-time.
got it.
Bob Spurl just re-up for a full term. So, secretary, we have Paul Dion nominated by Rick.
Nominated, yeah.
Second.
Bob
Second by
Spurl seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Wow, that was the easiest
Thank
we've
you,
ever gone
James.
through that whole process, so. And formally correct. We did receive, so if that's all set, any other comments or questions from the commission? No, okay. So we did receive a new printout from our town clerk regarding minutes procedures, so we'll make sure that we follow these accordingly, which we've been in pretty good standing, so. But we do need to certify and sign the minutes, which was something we had not been doing the official signature, so we did that for the last few meetings, right before this meeting, to make sure we were in compliance. So moving forward, we will.
Question.
Yes.
Do those procedures still require that we submit them to the town before they've been approved by the commission?
Yes, essentially, it is draft copy within 48 hours, draft copy. And so, in the past, when we had Ruthie running the minutes, that was being submitted by Ruthie because they were being drafted the day immediately after the meeting and in. And so that step was completely covered. And so we'll be following the rules of order to a T until we have a formal person placed. Sound good? And then once final copies voted in and approved at the meeting, they're signed, and town clerk will get those the following morning to be posted. Make sense? Okay.
So in the interim, until we get a real secretary, the minutes from tonight's meeting have to be submitted within 48 hours?
They will, and they will be submitted by me within 48 hours.
So you're going to do it, okay?
Yep, 100%.
Got it.
We're going to follow the same process we have been. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So we had a great update with that.
One more comment. If you could just CC the commission on that, then that way we don't have to read them, minutes before we approve them going forward.
You got it. Not an issue. All right. The only order of business that I have in other business, since we moved up the discussion about Coal Marsh, was we had a request come in for the Boy Scouts and a project that they would like to complete over at Broadview. So Kevin Young had reached out on behalf of the Boy Scout Troop 405 regarding the footbridge that gets to the camping area. It's a little bit old, needs a little bit of repair to it. The question came up that they would like to go forward and purchase some material, get a budget for that material, and present that to the commission in hopes that one will help fund the material, and they would then do all the pickup labor and build the bridge on site for it to be a little bit more usable. Kevin Young mentioned in the past, I think, Paul, he mentioned you by name, that was something that happened in the past. Seeing as we have these issues at Coal Marsh, keeping up with bridges is obviously top of mind. And so I'd entertain some discussion on how we want to approach the request from the Boy Scouts.
I think it would be great as long as it's going to go from bank to bank.
Okay,
If it doesn't, we need a permit.
okay.
And the state usually doesn't allow them, right, Eileen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question, is the plan to replace the bridge or to repair the bridge? And the reason I ask is my experience with Eagle Scout projects elsewhere is that they're not allowed to do maintenance work for an Eagle Scout project. It has to be a new thing.
It's a full new bridge. In fact, I don't have the schematic to show, but essentially they're looking to build an entire, almost 8-foot long structure to replace the one that's there, so that it can be fully utilized all the way across. They had not budgeted what that cost was yet. They're going to work with some local vendors. We don't have necessarily an account set up and open to say, okay, go to X location, whether it be a local lumberyard or a big box. We don't have one of those accounts set up at this time. So I asked him to aggregate some prices and come to the commission and do a formal presentation for the project.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that, if they would come before us and show us what they're doing.
Yeah. So I'll share what the early schematic looks like in terms of the design. It's a little bit of similar in terms of the timber sizes that are there, but it's a little bigger than what's existing. But as long as I can tell Kevin that we are interested 100%, I did ask them to pull the proposals early and start working on numbers. But I'd like to have a discussion with him, obviously, about final price and see if we can get that over the goal line and get the project going. So we are open to it, correct?
Yep.
Seeing a lot of yeses.
Yeah.
Okay. While we're on bridges, we got to figure out how we're taking care of Coal Marsh. Separate from the floating bridge, that main bridge we need to take care of. The wood itself looks like it was of southern yellow pine, non-treated at the time.
That
We
was
need-
a project 25 years ago.
Yeah.
A while,
Yeah.
a while back.
Yeah, so one, getting material in and out of the site is going to be a little bit of a challenge in terms of distance, but hopefully some abutters will help us out in terms of access to get closer to where that longer bridge needs to be replaced.
You can use four-wheelers.
We've also had some conversation with the town as well in email about, getting eyes on these. As you heard from the abutter that came in tonight, we have had some folks out there taking a look, and it's something we need to take care of. So I'm going to place a call to DPW tomorrow to say, hey, while we are putting a request to the public to keep that parcel closed, we need just as quickly to figure out how we're going to get that bridge repaired. And so we may need a little bit of a work day from the commission to help out on that while the water level is low.
Right.
That's the number one benefit right now to that dam kind of letting some of the water out, is that we won't be waist deep in swamp water. So,
I got, being new to this, I'm assuming that that young lady, she's saying that that bridge that we're talking about is on her property?
No, different
not the
bridge.
one that was in these photos, a
Different
different
floating-
bridge.
yeah.
And we will,
Same area.
Rick, you want to tackle that one with me? Rick and I will make that call tomorrow and just get on site and take another look and communicate with the town moving forward.
So if we're asking people not to go there, how are we gonna
Communicate
prevent
that.
that?
I would-
Asking people and doing are two different things.
I could go out there tomorrow and just kind of board up each as a side of the bridge.
B1. The other thing that we could do is from the Dameron roadside in, just
Just
get some tape
trail
out there.
closed.
Yeah, hey, trail closed and for the time being,
All right.
close it.
Website as well. I can see about putting it on the website
Perfect.
tomorrow morning.
DTV, is that something we can work on as well? Awesome. Yeah, and our goal will be to get that open as soon as possible. You know, the other part of it is while we're having eyes out there and the town is aware that we need to do some work out there, the beaver activity has been pretty aggressive for the folks that have been
It's got
out on
great
that property.
habitat. You know, 30 years ago, it had great habitat, and then the beaver left.
Yep.
And now it's great habitat again.
Yeah, yeah. But there is, I mean, there's considerable blowdowns, you know, close to the marsh as well. There's been a lot of stuff out there. So although the trails are going to be a little bit drier for the time being, there's still some physical labor that needs to happen out there to make some of those trails more accessible.
Yeah, I mean, there's been trees too that are widowmakers along the
Yeah.
edge of the water too, that have been widowmakers for a while that we should take care of.
Yeah.
That's-
So we're working on a full action plan. I'm hoping that we can, I mean, obviously we have mud season coming. We're going to have spring rain, so it's not going to be fun to be out knee deep in the mud out there. So closing the trail for the time being should be
Spring snow
acceptable.
this week. Spring
Um,
snow.
But that's what we've got for main business we need to take care of in terms of other business tonight. Do we have anything else that would like to be discussed?
Couple of
Eileen?
other things I wanted to mention, and just driving around town, going places, I was like seeing some things. One was the gate to the Grinnell property it's down.
Oh,
I don't know what's going on there, but that gate it's down. The metal gate is just on the ground. Another thing I noticed was going down North Shore Road towards Hampstead, you know, the entrance to, I think it's to Weber Forest, actually. But the upper part, like up the hill,
okay.
the conservation sign has been smashed, and it's also kind of tilting towards the ground. It's gonna
Oh, on
fall pretty
Jackman?
soon. Huh?
Is that on Jackman or at Drew?
Yeah, Jackman, yeah.
Jackman, yeah, it's been
It's in bad
getting
shape.
lower
Very
for a
bad shape.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sign hasn't really been leveraged for, it. The signboard's been up, but it hasn't really been leveraged
Yeah.
for a long time. And to be honest, with the age of digital, I don't know that we need that signboard to still remain there, but open to discussion on that. At least we can get it upright and stabilized.
Yeah, I think we should get it upright and stabilized. I don't think we should take it out, because we need to let the public know that, you know, that's conservation land.
Yeah.
So we need that signage in some.
Counselor Foote, you're aware of what we're talking about there over on North Shore Road, the double signboard?
Yeah.
We'll just stabilize, we'll work on a stabilization plan for that, get some pipe and get it up and braced for the time being. You know, that's something we'd love to, we gotta figure that out. You know, we've got so many miscellaneous sign types out there, and it's been a bane of our existence for many years. It'd be nice to just have something simplified, single sheet, laminated to the weather, and be done with it, you know? And it's gonna take some capital, so we gotta figure that one out. Maybe a little bit creative use of the administrative funds, along with some help
Yeah.
from others.
Something
So-
low maintenance, you know.
I can chime in if you're done, Eileen.
Hey, repair or replace?
What,
Are you-
replace the sign? Yeah, replace it,
Are you done?
eventually, yeah.
Because Counselor Foote and I had a conversation a couple of months ago, probably, about doing something like what Londonderry does, having a part-time conservation kind of agent, if you will. I think we should probably explore that this year to do specifically stuff like this, because, and was it, I did have a conversation, there was a conversation I had with, there's a part-time, I guess it's a part-time like janitor that's doing something like that for DPW, and there was at least a brief conversation about that, so we should probably explore that a little bit, because we have we have a pile of these small little projects that maybe a 20-hour-a-week person could, button up. So I think it's something we should probably think about as we think about the full-time secretary, and as our list of properties continue to grow and continue to kind of become dilapidated. Those signs were all put up, before I got here 15 years ago, so they're pretty old.
And I'll add on to that, we used to have a lot of friends of the Derry Conservation Commission and land stewards and things like that, but again, volunteers wane and,
Right.
activity goes down, so we know what the reporting process looks like for monitoring, and it can be standardized. If we had somebody committed to that, not only will we get regular reports, they'd be with the same eyes, so it's not like you're interpreting others' data, and it could be more fact-based and consistent, so I would echo that in terms of some type of part-time.
Yeah, and the work that, that needs to be done in some of these scenarios can't be done by volunteers. It's not, it's just not safe to have volunteers
Right,
with
right.
that type
And
of.
besides projects like bridges, there's an abundance of trail work that could keep somebody
Exactly.
busy 20 hours a week for a long time.
Right.
So-
Yeah, so we should probably put that closer to the top of our goals for this year.
Budgetary,
100%.
we'll have to figure that out.
Yeah.
I don't know where that would come from, but we can definitely try to.
Take a look.
Well, we can, we've been level funded for probably
20 years.
20 years, and there's a provision in us using our land use funds to fund those. We can use it for the maintenance of the properties in addition to purchasing property, and presently we have a fairly large balance in that account. So it wouldn't necessarily be a budget item for you more than it would be a personnel situation.
Well, I think there's also, you gotta be safety certified, chainsaw operations and things like that. So I think it's a broader conversation we should probably have with DPW and Parks to figure out what is the pathway.
But it's not budget, you know what I mean? We do have, we have the budget for it.
Right.
We just need the catalyst to kind of move it forward. And I have one other thing, Mr. Chairman. The stock thing's under my craw, because as you know, I'm a longtime Beaver Lake resident, and we're pretty strict about what can and can't happen with docks.
Just real quick, can you, when you mention that to the public, can you just specify you're referring to the shoreland permit application that we mentioned in the correspondence earlier this evening? Can you reference the address, please?
Sure, it's a wetlands, standard dredge and fill wetlands permit for a property at 135 North Shore Road in Derry. And my concern is that there's a note here that says there's no comments were received from the local conservation committee. And I'm not sure we've, I know that I've never seen this before, and this was submitted on March 1st. So that, on March 1st, they have some reason to believe that the local conservation commission did not chime in on something that was presented prior to March 1st, and I don't never remember seeing anything. I definitely don't remember seeing that plan. And if I did see that plan, I definitely would have.
We did not see a plan for that here, no.
Yeah, so I don't know how they can put that we don't, we didn't comment. If we weren't notified, how could we have commented?
Well, they can apply for the expedited process through the state. We get a notice that an application's been received, and then it's up to us to dig into the actual notice. But if we lapse in between meetings, or we don't necessarily have a meeting,
But
and
even
that
on,
notice is.
even on a dredge and fill?
Is this a standard
The
dredge and
standard
fill?
dredge
Yeah.
and fill?
Yeah,
Dredge and fill
30
it.
days?
Are we just getting it now?
Well,
we received that copy.
this came in March 1st, but on March 1st, they're referring that prior to March 1st, in a previous application, that we did not have comment. So there had to be something filed prior to this for that, either that or someone's not telling the truth on us not commenting.
Well, before we go that far down the road, we'll look back at the minutes that we have to see if it ever made other notification in correspondence, because we would have had a application received, but no work issue's been granted. And that would have been a chance to pull that and go through it.
Okay.
So we'll make sure that is actually presented as is, which I believe it probably was, meaning that there was a notice received to review it, and
That
So I'm not sure if we now have, Eileen, maybe you could snoop around with this. I'm not sure if we now have,
Yeah.
because it's now April 1st, and it's a month later, if we have an opportunity at this point to get involved in this, so.
Yeah, can you send that down here?
Sure.
I'll look into it for you.
That's all I have.
So if we determine that we were in fact notified, wouldn't it be in our interest to send them immediately a note saying that we do have comment?
Unless we have 30 days to comment, and if that's the case, then the 30 days have expired.
Send it anyway.
Well, let's do our due diligence on it and take step one, which is just,
What the issue,
real quick,
is.
we will connect on whether or not we receive correspondence, which I believe that we have, and we will follow up accordingly and leave it at that for
correct it
now.
for the future,
Yep. Any other comments this evening?
I'd like to get a new handbook.
I might have one for you. Let me check with Mr. Lowenthal before he disappears too far from the commission, because I believe he got one of our last ones. So,
Do we have a non-public?
no, we do not.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Rick motions to
Wait,
adjourn.
wait, wait,
Whoa, whoa,
hold
whoa.
on a second.
Grace,
You guys are going right on by. The Londonderry part-timer, I believe he's also an enforcement officer,
Yes.
right? And that's what's important to me, not just the maintenance part of it, but things are getting ruined out there. They're destroying habitat. All kinds of things are getting ruined because there's nobody there to stop the kids that do it.
Right.
So I'd like to see that. Just wanted to throw that in. And the other thing was.
I think you're right. I think just having the presence of someone there
Right,
regularly
right, and
is
knowing
gonna,
that it's being.
yeah, that's gonna help quite a bit,
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
just that part of it.
The other part is Lewis, I believe it's Lewis Conservation behind you guys, right?
Yes.
yeah.
Somebody has drained it.
Hmm.
And I got a call from someone who doesn't abut it, but has been watching some blog on it. Have you seen that? There's been some postings about somebody came along and emptied broke down the dam and emptied it.
That's the one that
so.
was, it was flooding the rec trail, right? That's the one you're talking about?
Well, that's what they say, but the trail's always flooded right now. I
Right.
mean, it's always flooded most of
always
the
high
year
on
now,
one
just
side,
because
yeah.
it's so compressed now.
Yeah, in that area,
The
yeah.
bank's so high that it has no place to drain.
Yeah,
So it's
I heard
pretty
that,
much mud,
I heard the chatter on it too.
except during a drought, so.
Yeah, in years past, we've had issues that have popped up with that particular area in
Yeah, 'cause
terms
it
of
happened behind us,
draining,
too.
and it's happened before.
Wetlands gone and.
From my understanding, and I don't know if, Paul, you have more history on this than I do, but the state and the Rec Trail Committee and others have stepped in and have drained or helped mitigate some of the flooding situation by alleviating some of the water on the dam. I think you had shared, there was a report of a wildlife control truck or something that was spotted
Yeah,
out
that's
there.
what somebody said, was that they had some kind of wild, and someone else posted that that it was some kind of pest company.
Pest control.
Pest company?
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I will continue to scratch
Oh, like the
at that.
dragon mosquito? I know dragon mosquito does,
Oh,
Derry, they do spraying.
I don't have, well, I probably do have that whole strand of stuff
Dragon-
going on,
dragon
but
mosquito
it was like a beaver trapping or something, they thought.
Yeah, they're supposed to get written permission
They have
from
to,
the
they need a
people that own the
permit for a
property.
beaver
Yeah,
trapping.
well,
Yeah, it's just
that apparently wasn't done, so
They definitely
yeah.
need a permit for that.
could find the
Can't just
whole
do that.
thing in there, I'm sure,
Yeah.
last week.
All right, we'll scratch on that, and we'll see if we can get an update for you continually.
Yeah, people are pretty upset, so,
Understood. All right, anything else?
no.
I'll restate my motion.
Oh, I have a
Oh.
finger up now, hold on. Yes, Ms. Ives?
Jim Aruda volunteers at the soup kitchen, and he says hello to all of you.
Oh, hello, Jim.
Hello, Jim.
We say hi
A good
too.
update, a good update.
That's in the past.
And the other thing is that this meeting was not posted at the library board,
Uh-oh.
and it should be, so who does that for us?
It goes right into meetings, and Sheila and Tail Library, was it on the Derry Public Library?
The Derry Public Library, it wasn't posted.
It's got to be posted in, what, 2 places before, and it got posted in multiple, so I'll check with who our contact will be at the Derry Public Library, but
Okay.
should have been posted.
Well, I'm not doing it again, so someone else got to do it.
All right.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Fall motions to adjourn at 7:44. Do we have a second? Grace Rysdorf, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Enjoy your evening.
I got a problem with 3 strikes, you know what I mean?
Yep. Thank you.
Eileen, the address on that is
Good to be back.
the permit that you're holding.
Oh, this one here?